Queen Elizabeth says she wants Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, to be known as Queen Consort when Prince Charles becomes king. She made the announcement in a message marking the 70th anniversary of her reign.
With King Charles continuing to face cancer treatment, Princess Kate and Prince William could be poised to take on more responsibility, and all eyes are on Kate right now. So we decided to focus on Kate for this week's cover story.
Kate Middleton, once the Duchess of Cambridge, now wears the crown that once belonged to Camilla. It's a seismic turn that has left the world stunned, not because it happened, but because of how quietly it was done. No balcony wave, no coronation, speech, just a shift, deliberate, precise, and telling. The throne didn't wait for a pageant. It simply passed on, choosing not the loudest voice in the room, but the one who had long earned the public's trust in silence. King Charles, still battling the harsh grip of cancer, remains in the shadows of the public eye, his reign strained by illness, time, and scrutiny. For a monarch who waited a lifetime to ascend, his time on the throne has been riddled with turmoil. In the wake of Queen Elizabeth's death, he faced the impossible task of holding a fractured monarchy together while bearing the crown and the weight of expectation. But as his strength wavered, the institution began looking ahead. The public, once watchers of tradition, had grown impatient, demanding relevance, authenticity, and a royal figure who could meet the moment. And when the eyes of the world turned to the palace, the answer was already there, smiling calmly, standing tall, never asking, but always ready. Kate Middleton. This wasn't a decision born from scandal or spectacle. It was the kind of change that creeps in while the world is looking elsewhere. And yet, its impact was explosive. For years, Camilla held the title of Queen Consort with quiet dignity, knowing full well the public's divided opinion about her role. But she could feel the shift coming. Whispers grew louder. Polls leaned further. The press softened toward Kate and, more importantly, the people roared behind her. Behind the golden walls of Buckingham Palace, choices were made not based on lineage alone, but legacy, the kind the people wanted to believe in. Again, and so it happened. A royal torch passed not with fanfare, but with finality. The title, Camilla, once carried, now belongs to someone who didn't inherit her position, but earned it inch by inch. In that moment, the monarchy wasn't just reshaped, it was redefined. It wasn't about birthright anymore. It was about who had walked the quietest path with the greatest strength. A woman who weathered the storm with a smile. A queen not just by title, but by truth. But this wasn't an overnight change. It was decades in the making, fueled by love, duty, and relentless public pressure. Born Catherine Elizabeth Middleton, she didn't grow up behind palace gates or dine under chandeliers. Her world was far simpler, filled with family dinners, laughter, and the quiet values instilled by two hardworking parents. Her father, a former flight dispatcher, and her mother, once a flight attendant, built their small business from the ground up. But what they gave Kate was something far greater than wealth. A deep sense of humility, strength, and self-worth. While other girls dreamed of fairy tales, Kate was already living her own story, one written in kindness, patience, and quiet. Resilience. That story took a pivotal turn at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, where fate introduced her to Prince William. Their meeting wasn't dramatic, nor was it instant love. It began as a friendship, two students in the same residence, finding comfort in shared classes and youthful laughter. But even in those early days, there was something striking about Kate. She didn't treat William like royalty. She treated him like a person. While others circled for attention, Kate never chased the spotlight. She stood still, and that stillness, that calm composure, drew him in. As their relationship deepened, the world began to take notice. Paparazzi hounded her, tabloids dissected her every move, and headlines predicted everything from weddings to scandals. But Kate didn't break. She didn't run. She didn't speak out. Instead, she did the one thing no one expected. She stayed quiet. In a world that rewards the loudest voices, Kate chose grace. She didn't climb to fame. It found her. And still, she refused to let it define her. That choice, over and over again, not only earned her respect, but revealed her strength. The kind of strength you don't see in royal portraits, but in the way someone survives when no one's clapping. By the time William proposed in 2010, the world already knew Kate, but they didn't just know her as his girlfriend. They saw her as someone real, someone steady, someone who didn't ask to be seen, but couldn't be ignored. It wasn't the ring or the royal title that made her shine. It was the years she spent preparing without ever preparing. Years of enduring judgment without ever changing her truth. She became a mirror of everything the monarchy needed but had long forgotten. Humility wrapped in strength. Tradition balanced by compassion. And as Kate walked each royal mile with grace, the public began to see in her something they hadn't felt since Diana. Diana never truly left the royal stage, and neither did her shadow. Even decades after her tragic death, her presence looms over the monarchy like a crown made of memory. The world didn't just mourn a princess. They mourned a woman who redefined royalty with compassion, warmth, and unshakable humanity. Every smile she gave to a child, every hand she held in a hospital, became a thread in a fabric that still wraps itself tightly around the public's heart. Diana was more than a royal figure, she was a symbol. And no matter how time marched forward, that symbol refused to fade. So when Camilla entered the spotlight first as the Duchess of Cornwall and later as Queen Consort, she didn't arrive alone. She stepped into Diana's echo. The public didn't just see a new royal figure, they saw the woman once cast as the other woman. Fair or not, that label stuck. And for every royal engagement Camilla attended, for every charitable cause she championed, there remained an undercurrent of resistance. Acceptance didn't come easily. Some offered sympathy, others scorn. But the shadow of Diana made true embrace almost impossible. Camilla wasn't just trying to win a title, she was trying to rewrite history. And the world wasn't ready to forget. Yet while Camilla worked in the background, Kate was rising quietly. She didn't try to replace Diana, nor did she challenge the past. Instead, she embodied what the public had been yearning for, a bridge between what was lost and what could be restored. With every hospital visit, every kind gesture, and every soft-spoken moment of strength, Kate began to evoke memories of the people's princess. Not through imitation, but through essence. The grace, the empathy, the unwavering presence under pressure. It wasn't long before comparisons started not in tabloids, but in living rooms, cafes, and conversations across the country. As time passed, the media lens shifted. Camilla, once front and center as Queen Consort, began to appear less frequently. Meanwhile, Kate was everywhere, not in spectacle, but in substance. Polls revealed what many already felt. The public wanted her, not because she demanded the throne, but because she had quietly earned it. Camilla may have worn the title, but it was Kate who wore the trust. And in a monarchy built on perception as much as bloodline, trust is everything. And slowly, the whispers inside palace walls turned into urgent conversations about the monarchy's future. Behind Buckingham's grand gates, quiet meetings were reshaping the crown's direction, while the world focused on ceremonial appearances and smiling portraits. Something far more consequential was unfolding in private. King Charles, now weighed down by illness and time, found himself navigating a storm he had long feared. The crown he waited his entire life to wear now sat heavily upon a man whose reign was no longer just ceremonial, it was a symbol of a monarchy. Under pressure, his health, closely guarded behind palace walls, had become more than a personal challenge. It was a national concern. Every cancelled engagement, every delayed appearance sparked whispers. The question no one dared to ask out loud began to echo behind closed doors. What happens if he cannot carry the weight? That question ignited a series of strategic conversations. Royal advisors, senior aides, and even select family members began meeting in discreet corners of the palace. These weren't debates over royal etiquette or ceremonial adjustments. These were survival talks, focused entirely on how to protect the monarchy's image, preserve public faith, and ensure continuity in an era that demanded change. And, slowly, one name began surfacing more often than any other: Kate. Not because she was next in line, but because she had already positioned herself as the future. The meetings weren't dramatic. There were no shouting matches or grand declarations, but every room she wasn't in, her name lingered like a promise of stability. While Camilla had fulfilled her duties with loyalty, she had never been fully embraced. Her decades-long battle for public approval had softened edges, but never erased the scars. Even as queen consort, she remained a controversial figure, a reminder of the monarchy's complicated past rather than its future. Kate, by contrast, had quietly become the people's favorite. Poised, relatable, modern, and most importantly, trusted. Palace insiders noted the shift. Advisors once loyal to tradition began advocating for reinvention. Behind closed doors, voices of reason suggested that the future of the monarchy couldn't be inherited by duty alone, it had to be earned through connection. Camilla, always aware of the delicate balance she walked, began to feel the tension rising. She noticed the silence between conversations, the nods in meetings that didn't include her, the press releases that highlighted Kate more than the Queen. She knew what was coming, and in her usual fashion, she didn't protest. She didn't resist. She watched with a quiet understanding as the tide turned not in anger, but in resignation. When the decision came, it wasn't loud or public, it was precise, and the world only realized after the crown had already moved. She didn't campaign for the crown, she earned it in silence, with service. While others in the spotlight played the game of visibility, Kate Middleton mastered the art of quiet impact. Her rise wasn't fueled by headlines or scandal, it was built on something far more powerful: trust. Every visit to a children's hospice, every whispered conversation with a grieving mother, every moment spent listening instead of speaking it all added up. She didn't ask for attention, she gave it. And through that giving, she became something rare, a royal figure people not only admired, but believed in. Her focus was never on grandeur, but on ground-level change. She dove into causes others might avoid: mental health, early childhood development, family support systems. And she did it not to be praised, but because it mattered. She met with broken families, sat in hospital rooms, and spoke on stages not to impress, but to connect. She made charity more than a checklist. It became her identity. And the public noticed not just in passing, but with growing conviction. Kate didn't merely represent the monarchy. She elevated it. Slowly, quietly, she became the face of what it could be. Unlike many who've lived within the royal orbit, Kate's record remained untouched by controversy. She didn't stumble into scandals, didn't battle the press, didn't chase drama. She stood steady while chaos whirled around her. And in a royal house that has known its share of storms, her calm presence became a kind of anchor. Journalists wrote about her composure. Public forums echoed admiration. Even critics struggled to find a crack in her poise. Because while others stumbled for relevance, Kate stood firm in principle. In a world overflowing with noise, she became the quiet voice that resonated loudest. And then came the numbers. The polls didn't just hint at public support, they roared it. Surveys revealed that the majority of British citizens believed Kate should one day be queen not as a consort, but as a leader. Her approval ratings eclipsed every other senior royal. Even those once skeptical began to admit the future felt safer with her in it. She had become more than a royal wife. She was a symbol of change, of hope, of dignity, a modern monarch in everything but title. And with the people's blessing and the palace's approval, a new chapter was about to be written. Kate isn't just wearing a crown, she's rewriting what it means to wear one. For centuries, royalty has been measured by bloodlines, ceremonies, and inherited symbols of power. But Kate Middleton, now Queen Catherine, has flipped the script. Her reign doesn't begin with spectacle, it begins with substance. She leads not by commanding attention, but by listening. Not by demanding loyalty, but by earning it. Her strength is quiet, her power subtle, and her presence undeniable. In a time when leadership is often mistaken for volume, Kate has proven that true influence doesn't shout. It whispers, resonates, and endures. This isn't the story of a royal who simply inherited her place. It's the story of a woman who embodied it long before the title arrived. Kate has become the face of a new kind of monarchy, one grounded in empathy and relevance. Where others led with formality, she leads with feeling. Where others held traditions like shields, she embraces change like an open door. She doesn't rule from above. She walks beside. That's what makes her different. That's what makes her necessary. And in a world desperate for dignity in leadership, Queen Catherine stands as a figure of calm in the chaos. Her impact isn't confined to the palace walls. It echoes in classrooms, in charities, in the hearts of parents and children across the country. She's not just a sovereign, she's a mother, a wife, a human face in a system that once felt untouchable. Whether advocating for children's mental health or quietly supporting community programs, she brings the crown into living rooms and local halls. She makes monarchy feel less like an institution and more like a presence. Through her, the crown doesn't just represent tradition, it represents transformation. What sets Kate apart is how seamlessly she bridges the past and the present. She honors the heritage she married into, yet never lets it cage her voice. She respects the customs, but refuses to let them stagnate. Every gesture, every cause, every carefully chosen word signals a new royal era, one where relevance triumphs over ritual. In a time where the world grows weary of outdated symbols, Queen Catherine offers something real. She shows that grace still matters. That service isn't obsolete. That kindness can, in fact, still lead. And through all of it, she remains steady. No scandals, no sharp turns, just unwavering focus and quiet resilience. The monarchy she now shapes is not one of spectacle, but sincerity. And that sincerity has become the crown's greatest asset. She doesn't just wear the jewels, she carries the weight of what they symbolize, with a humility rarely seen at this level of power. But with every rise, there's a shift. And now the question on everyone's mind: what happens to Camilla? She fought hard for her place, but the crown now rests elsewhere. Camilla's journey into royalty was never a fairy tale. It was a long, uneven climb through decades of public scrutiny, relentless comparison, and private sacrifice. She didn't walk into Buckingham Palace as a beloved figure. She entered carrying the weight of the past, with headlines still echoing the name of another woman, Diana. The world wasn't ready to welcome her. But Camilla never demanded love. She settled instead for respect. And in the end, she earned it. Not through charm or reinvention, but through quiet endurance. Now, that chapter has come to a close. Camilla steps back, no longer queen consort, but still queen in the eyes of the man she stood beside for nearly half a century. This wasn't a demotion, it was a rebalancing, a recognition of where the monarchy is going and who the people want to lead it there. And for Camilla, that realization didn't bring bitterness, it brought relief. For years, she had worn a crown not designed for comfort, but for survival. Now, it was time to set it down and return to the quieter spaces she had always preferred. The shift in focus was immediate. With the weight of royal leadership no longer on her shoulders, Camilla turned toward the causes that had long sustained her. Animal welfare, health awareness, literacy programs, these became her sanctuary. And without the glare of constant media coverage, she began working behind the scenes, unburdened by titles or expectations. There were no more public debates about whether she belonged, no more cruel comparisons, just Camilla, at peace, doing what she could where it mattered. And for the first time in decades, she could breathe without being watched. The press, once so relentless, grew silent. Headlines no longer featured her name. Cameras no longer followed her steps. The fascination faded, but in its place came something quieter: acknowledgement. The public might never have fully embraced her, but they no longer resisted her. She was no longer the outsider. She was simply a woman who had walked a difficult path, fulfilled her role with grace, and knew when it was time to let go. That dignity, in the end, became her legacy. And just like that, Camilla's reign fades quietly, while a new queen steps into the light. This isn't just a royal title change, it's a transformation for an entire institution. For centuries, the British monarchy has been shaped by tradition, hierarchy, and expectation. But today, something different is unfolding. The rise of Queen Catherine doesn't just mark the succession of a new royal figure, it signals the beginning of a new monarchy. One that's not held together by protocol or performance, but by presence. Not by declarations, but by deeds. Kate didn't need to rewrite the monarchy's rules. She simply lived in a way that made them feel meaningful again. And that quiet power measured not by speeches, but by service, has become the foundation of everything that comes next. In a world fractured by distrust and division, Kate stands as a rare figure of unity. She doesn't polarize, she doesn't provoke, she steadies. As queen, she isn't just symbolic, she's substantial. She reflects a public desire for empathy over entitlement, for connection over distance. She represents not just a younger generation, but a better one. One that believes strength lies in understanding, not authority. She's become more than a royal, she's a mirror. A figure people can look at and see grace, resilience, and truth. Through her, the monarchy has found something it was in danger of losing relevance. And now, with Kate at the helm, the future isn't carved in stone, it's shaped by compassion. The pageantry still exists, but it no longer defines. The power still echoes, but it no longer overshadows. Instead, there's clarity, a vision of leadership that uplifts, not dominates, one that listens before it leads. Under Queen Catherine, kindness is not a gesture, it's the policy. And that shift is seismic. Because in an age of noise, her quiet commitment to dignity cuts through like thunder. This monarchy doesn't shout to be heard. It speaks in actions, in trust earned, not assumed, in warmth extended, not withheld, in calm, not control. The scandals of the past may still whisper, but they no longer set the tone. This is a different era, one built not on grandeur, but on grace. And Kate Middleton. Now Queen Catherine is the beating heart of that change. The crown may glitter, but its true weight lies in the hearts it touches. And Kate Middleton wears it with grace the world can feel. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.